Hello, friends. Welcome to Jewels of Truth. My name is Daniel Fontenot, and we're glad that you joined us today. Today, I would like to again read from a book. I've read to you this book before, and that book is Ecclesiastical Megalomania by John W. Robbins. And the question I would like to address is, did the Catholic Church support Hitler during World War II? Before I read that portion, this portion of the book, Ecclesiastical Megalomania, I want to read from Revelation 17, verses 1 through 5. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of a fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. That's Revelation 17, verses 1 through 6. Now, this chapter in the book Ecclesiastical Megalomania, Chapter 16 is entitled Fascism and Nazism. I'm only going to deal with the portion of the chapter that's dealing with Nazism, Nazi Germany. In the next video, I will be dealing with fascism. Okay, so this is what it says, and I'm reading only portions of this. One of the topics rarely discussed in polite society is the Roman Church State's role in supporting the fascist and Nazi regimes of the 20th century. That support is not accidental, but flows from the social teaching and ecclesiastical structure of the Roman Church State. Christopher Dawson, a Roman Catholic historian, wrote that Roman Catholicism is by no means hostile to the authoritarian ideal of the state. Let me read that again. Roman Catholicism is by no means hostile to the authoritarian ideal of the state. Against the liberal doctrines of the divine right of majorities and unrestrained freedom of opinion, the Roman Church has always maintained the principles of authority and hierarchy and a high conception of the prerogatives of the state. Roman Catholic social ideas have far more affinity with those of fascism than with those of either liberalism or socialism. Now, whenever he says liberalism here, I do not believe that the writer means liberalism in the sense that we think of it today. It's more liberalism like in the mindset of our founding fathers, the founding fathers of the United States, people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. They were all liberals, but not in the sense that we think of liberals today. The liberals have hijacked that word liberalism or liberal. They have hijacked it and used it for their own advantage. Liberalism in the time of George Washington and people even after and before him, it was, what is the word liberal? Liberal has its roots in the word liberty. You know, freedom to think and to worship as you choose, and to act as you choose. You know, to own property, to get ahead in life, to do what you think you need to do in life. They correspond much more closely, at least in theory, with the fascist conception of the functions of the leader and the vocational hierarchy of the fascist state than they do with the system of parliamentary Democratic Party government. Now, the Roman, this is continuing on from John Robbins, his words, since the Roman church state is itself an authoritarian institution in which none of the rulers is elected by the people, in which power flows from the top down, and in which there is to be no disagreement with the leadership, it has shown an affinity for civil governments that reflect its own totalitarian and authoritarian structure. Governments made in its own image. Now, number one, and I appeal to any Catholic that is watching this video, this presentation. Why would you want to be a member of a church that is an authoritarian institution in which none of the rulers is elected by the people, in which power flows from the top, and in which there is to be no disagreement with the leadership? Why would you want to be a member of such a church? And even your United States government, it's elected by the people. Okay? At least that's the way it's supposed to be in our Constitution. And notice he says that it has shown an affinity, the Catholic Church, the papacy, has shown an affinity for civil governments that reflect its own totalitarian and authoritarian structure. Governments made in its own image. When I read that, I thought of Revelation chapter 13, in which, this is in the passage in Revelation 13, where it's speaking about the image of the beast. And speaking of that first beast, it says, and deceiveth them, this is verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which it had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. This is speaking of the United States of America making an image. See, the United States of America will end up being an image and making an image of the beast, the Roman Catholic Church. It is going to follow in the steps of Rome in persecuting people for not worshiping according to their dictates. Writing in the Individualist Review in 1965, Stephen J. Tonsor pointed out the hostility of the Roman Church state to Republican Germany after World War I, and its support for Nazi Germany. He says, there is the fact that German Catholicism was hostile to the Weimar Republic, that it marshaled its great power against the ideological and social pluralism, the liberalism, the democracy, the secular tone of Weimar Germany. The Church's vision was dominated by the ideal of an authoritarian state whose object was the promotion of virtue and true religion. Unquote. Now John Robbins continues, despite its hostility to the Weimar Republic, the Roman Catholic Church in Germany flourished during those years. Subsidized by the government, by 1930 there were 20 million Catholics in Germany, led by 20,000 Catholic priests. New monasteries, new schools, new houses for religious orders were being rapidly built. In 1931, Carl Beckham, historian of the Catholic Church, the Catholic Center Party, gloated, quote, never yet has a Catholic country possessed such a developed system of all conceivable Catholic associations as today's Catholic Germany, unquote. The Center Party started in 1870 in opposition to Bismarck's Kulturkampf, I guess that's how you pronounce that, was an ally of the Socialist Party in Germany during the 1920s. The fountainhead, notice this, the fountainhead and stronghold of the Nazi government in Germany was Bavaria in South Germany, Roman Catholic Germany, not Protestant North Germany. Okay? The fountainhead of the Nazi government, Nazi movement rather, in Germany was in Roman Catholic Germany, Southern Germany. Okay? Not Protestant North Germany. That's not an accident. German Roman Catholics joined the Nazi Party en masse and enthusiastically supported the Hitler regime. Over half of Hitler's troops were Roman Catholic. At the height of its power in 1942, Hitler ruled over the largest Roman Catholic population in the world. They were, now why? Why is this? They were accustomed to authoritarian government in their religious lives. These Catholics, they were accustomed to authoritarian government in their religious lives, which made them unquestioning and enthusiastic supporters of authoritarian civil governments as well. Of course, Roman Catholic laymen were simply following the example and instructions of their religious leaders. Pope Pius XI was the first head of state. Notice, Pope Pius XI was the first head of state to recognize Hitler's government in 1933. He was the first one. Pius XI praised Hitler in public even before he extended official recognition to the Hitler regime. In 1933, Pius XI told Hitler's Vice-Chancellor Fritz von Papen, also a Roman Catholic, quote, how pleased he was that the German governor now had at its head a man uncompromisingly opposed to communism. Not that communism is good. It's just evil fighting evil. Not only did Pius XI's 1931 encyclical Quadragesimo Anno influence Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. Oh, wow. What was the New Deal? Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. All of these social programs. Pius XI's 1931 encyclical influenced Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. It apparently persuaded German Chancellor Franz von Papen to bring Hitler to power in Germany. Von Ariton reported that ideas about the corporate state as developed in the encyclical Quadragesimo Anno were having their effect on Germany too, and at a critical moment weakened the democratic substance of the Center Party. One German Catholic who was particularly influenced by these ideas was Franz von Papen, who became Chancellor on June 1st, 1932. His authoritarian views contributed to the breakup of the Weimar Republic, and it was his support that enabled Hitler to take over as Chancellor on January 30th, 1933. On July 20th, 1933, the Roman Church state signed a treaty with Hitler guaranteeing the loyalty of German Roman Catholics to the Hitler regime. One of the Roman Catholic bishops in Germany, Berning, published a book stressing the link between Roman Catholicism and German patriotism, and sent a copy to Hitler as, quote, a token of my devotion. German Monsignor Hartz praised Hitler for having saved Germany from the poison of liberalism and the pest of communism. The liberalism, again, this is not the liberalism we think of today. This is just plain freedom at its, how would you say, at the base of it, was just plain freedom, freedom of conscience. The Roman church state military bishop endorsed the Nazi goal of Lebensraum. It was no wonder then that the Roman Catholic publicist Franz Kechner praised the Fuhrer, gifted with genius, and declared that he, quote, had been sent by Providence in order to achieve the fulfillment of Catholic social ideas. See, this is why it is so distressing to me, so disgusting, when you have people, even people that are not even Catholic, they minimize the threat of the Roman Catholic Church, I mean, particularly the papacy. They minimize it. That it's not a threat to us today. This is so wrong. The Bible tells us again and again in symbolic language that the papacy plans to rule the earth, and it was drunk with the martyrs of Jesus back in the Dark Ages, and it is still drunk. And if you think that the events that happened in World War II under Hitler are all over, you're sadly mistaken. And the Catholic Church was behind it then, and it will be in the future. Tanzer wrote, in accommodating the National Socialism through the Concordat of July 1933, the Roman Church put its stamp of approval upon a criminal regime and opened the way for recognition of that regime within Germany and abroad. The cooperation of the Roman Church went well beyond the Concordat. The Roman State Church played an important role in the SAR, that's S-A-A-R, referendum, in the remilitarization of the Rhineland and the Austrian Anschluss, these German words really beat me up, in the German war effort, 1939 to 1945, and in the crusade against Soviet Bolshevism. The Catholic press in Germany was frequently little more than an extension of Goebbels' propaganda ministry, and German bishops and priests often spoke the party Chinese of the Nazi. There's a footnote here to this page. Of course, the Roman Church state is unconcerned about such objections, the objections being, hey, you're trying to unite church and state. For it rejects the idea that church and state ought to be separate. This is something that Protestants need to wrap their minds around. You have Protestants in this country that attack the principle of the separation of church and state, which is embedded in the First Amendment to our Constitution. They need to know that the Roman Catholic hierarchy, they are in agreement with them. They also are against the idea, they reject the idea that church and state ought to be separate. The Pope is head of both state and church. Okay. Oh, yeah. Under the terms of a 1929 Concordat, the government of Germany collected a church tax from its citizens, half of which went to the Roman Church state in Germany and half to the Vatican. Hitler kept that tax in force throughout his regime. Tanzer continued, ultimately, the worst sins of the German Catholic Church and of the papacy were those of omission. The failure to speak out against racism, persecution, the violation of the peace, murder on a scale hitherto unknown in human history is morally unambiguous terms. To be sure, there were infrequent statements from the German bishops and the papacy, but they were couched in the muted esoteric language of encyclical Latin. In other words, you had German bishops and the papacy from time to time. They would make statements, about the murder that was going on, but they were couched in the muted and esoteric language of encyclical Latin. And I like what he says in the last sentence in this paragraph. If Jesus Christ had spoken this language, he might have been appointed to the Sanhedrin. Yeah. Contrary to Tanzer, however, the worst political sin of the Roman Church state was not its failure to speak out unambiguously against the Nazi regime, its wars of aggression, and its legalized murder of millions. After all, as Acton and others have pointed out, those were things that the Roman Church state itself had theologically justified. No, perhaps its worst political sin was the active support that the Roman Church state gave to the Hitler and Mussolini regimes. Of course, the Roman Church state did not then and does not now recognize its moral turpitude meaning wickedness, in this matter or any other. An American Roman Catholic writer, Gordon Zahn, in a 1962 book, German Catholics and Hitler's Wars, showed that, quote, the German Catholics supported Hitler's wars, not only because such support was required by the Nazi rulers, but also because his religious leaders formally called upon him to do so. By example and open encouragement, the Catholic press and the Catholic organizations gave their total commitment to the nation's cause. The political thought of the Roman Church state, in which the interests of the individual are sacrificed for the common good, found an echo in the political thought of the Nazis. In the 1933 Fulda pastoral letter from the German Catholic bishops read, quote, only if the individual sees himself as a part of an organism and places the common good ahead of individual good will his life once again be marked by the humble obedience and joyous service that Christian faith demands. See, they use religion as a cloak. This is a perfect example of how the Catholic hierarchy uses religion as a cloak to further their wickedness. Again, it says, only if the individual sees himself as a part of an organism and places the common good ahead of individual good will his life once again be marked by the humble obedience and joyous service that Christian faith demands. And I have said for years, and I will say it again, the only difference between Catholicism and atheism or communism, Catholicism and communism, is that one claims to be atheistic and the other claims to believe in God and to be Christian. Otherwise, in practice, they're exactly the same. Okay? One has a religious flavor to it, and the other one has just communism. In the pastoral letter, the Roman Church state's own authoritarian structure was offered to German Catholics as a model to support their submission to the Hitler government. In closing here, Adolf Hitler himself was a Roman Catholic. Let that never be forgotten. But it has been forgotten, hasn't it? A lot of people don't realize that. Adolf Hitler himself was a Roman Catholic, and that's no accident, dear people. His government was only acting out the things he was taught whenever he was a child. Okay, the principles of the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, it would have been highly unlikely that a Protestant would have done this sort of thing. I mean, you go through, and I've never done this research, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct when I say this. Of all the dictators that have ever existed in this world, name one Protestant. You might find one. I seriously doubt it, but you have had Catholic dictators. No doubt about it. Hitler had been reared in a traditional Catholic family. As a child and a youngster, little Adolf had regularly attended Mass and had served as an acolyte during Mass. An acolyte is something like a, altar boy. Okay? He had even hoped to become a priest. Yes, Adolf Hitler had hoped to become a priest and had attended school in a Benedictine monastery in Lambach, Australia. It was at the monastery, at that very monastery, a Benedictine monastery, it was at the monastery Hitler first discovered the Hindu swastika that he later adopted as the symbol of his National Socialist movement. As an adult, Hitler remained a member in good standing in the Roman Church state. At no time did officials of the church state excommunicate him. Ask that of your priest. Ask, did the Catholic Church ever excommunicate Hitler? No. When the German military plotted to assassinate Hitler in 1944, and the plot failed, the Roman Church state in Germany offered a Te Deum to thank God for the Führer's escape. A Te Deum is a praise to God. Okay, so they were praising God that Hitler was not assassinated, that he continued in power. We have more to read in this book, Ecclesiastical Megalomania by John Robbins. Very valuable information. It is the economic and political thought of the Roman Catholic Church. And again, we read in Revelation 17, Revelation 17, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. This is Babylon. This is the mother of harlots. I do not read these things or say these things because I hate Catholics. I was raised a Catholic. My heart goes out to sincere, honest Catholics who do not know what their hierarchy, what their leaders are about, and what they have done. But the teachings of the Catholic Church, their actions, the papacy's actions reflect, just like anything in life, what you believe is what you will do. I've always believed it. Whatever your belief is what you will put in your life practice. And that's what the papacy has done. So if you agree with this presentation, then by all means tap that like button so that this video can go out far and wide. And if you haven't subscribed, I would highly suggest that you do so. And if you have any questions or comments, then by all means place them at the bottom of this video. Thank you for joining us here at Jewels of Truth, and we hope that you have a good day.